My husband loathed his concubine, doted on a new beauty, and treated me with respect, yet cruelly confined her. I pitied the orphaned girl and protected her. But after my childbirth death, he made her wife, giving her my dowry. Only then I knew his loathing was love in disguise. Reborn. I'll test their so-called true love without me. Welcome to my channel. If you like this story, please click to subscribe. There are more wonderful stories waiting for you to listen to. Chapter 1. Yun Yang. This is Su Jirua, the woman mother insisted on forcing upon me. You needn't trouble yourself over her. You are my wife, bound to me for life. My heart belongs only to you. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw my husband, Yuan Shaoxian, holding my hand affectionately as he whispered these words, deep yet hollow, into my ear. Below the dais knelt a woman in plain robes, head bowed, expression unreadable, holding a teacup high with both hands, waiting for me to accept it. It suddenly dawned on me, I had been reborn. Reborn on the day after our wedding. Here, the concubine Su Jirua was presenting me with the concubine's tea. In my previous life, I had accepted it without a second thought. But the tea was scalding hot. I couldn't steady it, and the cup shattered on the floor. Su Jirua was so frightened she began kowtowing repeatedly. Spilled tea dripped onto her hair, mingling with her tears as they fell. This pitiful sight, like rain falling on pear blossoms, was truly heartbreaking. Yet I was distracted by Yuan Shaoxuan's repeated questions. Where did it burn? Does it hurt? Let me blow on it. It'll feel better. One was pampered and cherished by her husband. The other knelt on the ground, tears streaming down her face. Such a stark contrast led others to mistakenly believe I had deliberately dropped the teacup. From then on, I gained a reputation for jealousy, vying for favor, and harsh treatment of concubines. Yet at that moment, I was utterly lost in Yuan Shaoxuan's undivided affection. I had no heart for arguments, only secret delight. Convinced I'd found a man who truly cherished me, I failed to notice that the pity in his eyes wasn't for me at all. Thinking of this, the burning sensation still lingers on my fingertips. I withdrew the hand Yuan Shaoxian was holding, took an embroidered handkerchief to place on my lap, and looked at Su Jirua, who appeared gentle and harmless in the hall. This tea is too hot. I'll drink it once it cools. I didn't take it, so she had to keep holding it. Su Jirua hadn't expected me to see through her. Hearing this, she instinctively lifted her head. Seeing my half-smile, she hurriedly shifted her gaze to Yuan Shaoxian, secretly switching the fingers holding the tea bowl. Judging by the look on her face, she was at her limit enduring the scalding heat. Yuan Shaoxian, called upon by the damsel in distress, cleared his throat. Ahem. Since it's too hot, I'll have a new cup prepared for the toast. I raised a hand to halt the servant who was about to step forward. Husband, His Majesty advocates frugality. Our Marquis's household is vast and our expenditures considerable. We must practice greater economy. Wasting a cup of tea is simply not right. We can wait until it cools before drinking. With that, I closed my eyes, ignoring the two frozen figures behind me as I let the maid knead my shoulders. The room fell silent. Since my past life portrayed me as jealous and cruel to my concubines, I felt compelled to prove it true, otherwise it would feel like a loss. After a while, I sensed a shift in the pressure on my shoulders. It must have been Yuan Shaoxian taking over. The Marquis personally massaging his wife's shoulders. He wore such a deeply affectionate expression. Had I not drifted as a wandering soul after my death in my previous life, I might have believed he truly loved me to the bone. Yuan Shaoxian had personally come to ask for my hand in marriage. He claimed to have fallen for me at first sight during the flower viewing banquet hosted by the eldest princess, declaring I was the only one for him. After our marriage in my previous life, we lived in perfect harmony. Immersed in deep affection, convinced of our profound bond, I devoted myself to managing the household, attending to my mother-in-law, treating servants generously, and showing kindness to the concubines, especially towards Su Jirua. I felt an extra measure of pity. She was my mother-in-law's cousin's daughter, betrothed to me before she was even born, their parents having pledged their unborn children to each other. They grew up together since childhood sweethearts. Yet upon reaching marriageable age, her family fell into disgrace, branding her the daughter of a disgraced minister. Not only was the betrothal annulled, but she was reduced to becoming her fiancé's concubine. Looking back, I was foolish. When I learned Yuan Shaoxian had broken off the engagement because his betrothed had fallen from grace, I should have seen his true character. At first, I refused to believe there was no affection between them, and I held a grudge. But the extent of Yuan Shaoxuan's coldness and harsh treatment toward her sometimes felt excessive even to me. He would scold her with a cold face at the slightest provocation, withhold food and clothing, and even confine her to her quarters without reason. I came to believe my husband truly despised this concubine, whom he had taken in only to obey his mother's command. As a woman, I felt heartbroken for her plight. Thus, I watched over her in every way, treating her with kindness and care. When the palace distributed tropical fruits from the south, all the mistresses received some except Su Jirua. I secretly sent her my portion, because my elder sister was the empress. Such fruits were commonplace in the Grand Tutor's residence, and I had long grown tired of them. During the harshest winters, every chamber had ample charcoal and thick cotton garments. Yet Su Jirua's room contained only last year's worn-out cotton clothes, and the charcoal supply was often insufficient. Knowing the servants were playing favorites, I specifically reprimanded the steward and sent my personal maid to deliver newly made cotton garments herself. Falsely accused by another concubine, Lady Fong, she couldn't defend herself, only repeating I have no way to prove my innocence. Without even investigating, Yuan Shaoxian ordered her confined to her quarters. I, however, spared no effort to uncover the truth, clear her name, and restore her innocence and freedom. Later, I died in childbirth. I believed my life, though brief, had been perfectly fulfilled. Yet unexpectedly, after my death, my soul did not enter reincarnation but instead drifted through the mortal world. I watched Yuan Shaoxian impatiently devour my dowry, giving it all to Su Jirua. He immediately elevated her to primary wife and used his court merits to secure her an imperial decree of nobility. Su Jirua shed her former pitiable, white lotus demeanor, draped in the Persian cloud brocade my elder sister had gifted me, adorned head to toe in gold and jewels. She flaunted herself everywhere like a butterfly finally seeing sunlight. Meanwhile, she withheld servants' wages and tormented the other concubines. Yet Yuan Shaoxian didn't care, indulging her every whim with doting permissiveness. Watching them inseparable, I realized then Yuan Shaoxian hadn't neglected or mistreated her out of indifference. It was precisely because he loved her deeply that he shielded her with this deception. So they'd been treating me like a fool all along. My soul laughed until it cried. When I opened my eyes again, heaven had granted me a second chance. This time, I'd watch closely. Without my intervention, I'd see just how much this so-called true love could endure when truly neglected and mistreated. My thoughts snapped back to the present. Judging the time was right, I slowly opened my eyes. By now, Su Jirua was on the verge of tears, her arms trembling uncontrollably, making the bowl lid rattle. Only then did I reach out to take it. As soon as I brought it to my lips, I frowned. This tea is cold. Her arms had barely lowered when these words caused the tears pooling in her eyes to finally spill over. Heartbroken, Yuan Shaoxian fidgeted restlessly, urging the servant, "Quick! Bring another cup." Only after she presented a second cup at just the right temperature did I take a sip. After the tea ceremony, it was my turn to present the meeting gift. All present watched as I adjusted my sleeves, running my fingers over the flawless jade bracelet. I smoothed the intricate hairpins adorning my cloud-like coiffure, then stroked the substantial gold hairpin. Next, my fingers touched the dazzling ruby earrings. Yet I paused not a moment. Instead, I beckoned a handmaid to kneel and remove a pair of plain pearl earrings from my own ears. I then instructed the maid to present them to Su Jirua. A gift from the mistress must be accepted. She slowly reached out to take them, while Yuan Shaoxuan's expression darkened beside her. Madam Yun, this seems rather shabby. If word gets out, it might tarnish the Grand Tutor's household's reputation. Watching Yuan Shaoxian feign concern for me while actually advocating for his favored concubine, I blinked my innocent eyes innocently and explained with genuine sincerity. My lord fails to understand my intentions. Seeing Sister Jirua dressed entirely in white, I surmised she remains in mourning. Yet her ears alone adorned with vivid red agate pendants, a breach of propriety. I assumed either an oversight or a deficiency in her jewelry box. The jewelry I wear is too gaudy, so I specially sought out a suitable pair of earrings to bestow upon her. To make things proper. Husband, please rest assured. My maid has served me long and received many gifts. So these pearl earrings are no ordinary trinket. Their value alone could rival her entire outfit. Watching the two of them gasp for breath, speechless, my smile grew even brighter. The Su family's mourning period had long passed. Her white robes served only to accentuate her delicate figure, while also keeping Yuan Shaoxuan's affectionate regard ever present. But they couldn't discern the truth now. If not mourning for family, then surely mourning for the nation. With His Majesty in perfect health, that would be treasonous. They dared not. Yuan Shaoxian forced a smile, slipping his arm around my shoulders. As always, Yunyang handles matters with such tact. It's getting late, we must pay our respects to Mother. Seeing me nod and follow obediently, both of them breathed a silent sigh of relief. But I suddenly turned back, meeting Su Jirua's eyes filled with bitter resentment. I arched an eyebrow, my smile charming and playful. Husband, I hear my sister used to reside in Mother's courtyard. Now that she's with you, she should find a place in our quarters soon. I'm new here and unfamiliar with the estate's arrangements. It's best if you decide. Husband, so my sister can settle in and rest. Yuan Shaoxuan's jaw twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, then let it be Rain Bamboo Pavilion. I agreed, yet my heart stirred with surprise. Rain Bamboo Pavilion lay in the northwest, adjacent to the side gate, the most remote and desolate corner of the entire Marquise estate. In my past life, Yuan Shaoxian never had her stay here. It seems the course of events truly shifts according to my attitude. Behind me, Su Jirua could no longer hold back, lowering her head to sob aloud. That night, first, a young servant reported that Yuan Shaoxian would be staying in his study tonight. Later, the maid Dongrui whispered her report. This servant has ascertained that his lordship secretly took a back path toward the northwest corner of the rear courtyard. Seated before my dressing table, I watched my own reflection in the mirror and let a mocking smile curve my lips. No doubt my beloved suffered humiliation by day and now hastens to comfort her by night. The figure in the mirror shook her head. Never mind. Attend to my ablutions. The maids bustled about. Once Dongrui had removed my hairpins and ornaments, I handed her a brocaded box. Golden inlaid amber earrings. Exchange these for your pearl ear studs. Are you willing? These were the very gifts I had presented to Su Jirua in my past life, 100 times more precious than her pearl earrings. Dongrui accepted them with both hands, her smile stretching wide. Thank you, miss. You are so kind to me. Her joy was contagious, and I found myself smiling too. My dowry was lavish, such mundane items were commonplace to me. Yet in this life, I would never again spend a single coin to support a thankless wretch. In my past life, I caught Sujirua burning the midnight oil embroidering handkerchiefs. Only then did I learn she was penniless, forced to supplement her income by selling her embroidery. When she lived with her mother-in-law, she never had to manage servants. But after becoming Yuan Shaoxuan's concubine, she had to handle all social obligations herself, while the marquis expenses were enormous. Her family had been confiscated, leaving her penniless when the marquis took her in. No dowry, no private property, no steady income from shops, compounded by Yuan Shaoxuan's refusal to grant her any allowance. Her monthly stipend proved woefully inadequate. Thus, I repeatedly intercepted the servants sent to sell her handkerchiefs, purchasing them at several times the asking price while strictly forbidding them to reveal the transaction. Reflecting now, wasn't it far more worthwhile to save those coins for those who truly cherished me? The next morning, I went straight to Yuzhu Pavilion with my attendants. Since Yuan Shaoxian had come here secretly, he hadn't brought his servant, so no one announced our arrival. Standing in the courtyard strewn with fallen leaves, I glimpsed through the sheer gauze window that the person inside had just risen. Su Jirua was dressing Yuan Shaoxian when she suddenly embraced him from behind, her voice choked with emotion. Brother Xian, I live in such a dilapidated courtyard. I'm sorry you still wish to stay with me. Yuan Shaoxian turned and gently pinched her nose. You are in my heart. Naturally, I wish to be with you. Unsatisfied with his response, Su Jirua paused, then buried her face against his chest. If I'm in your heart, why make me live in such a remote, desolate place? Now I have to travel so far just to see you. Do you know? When I first arrived yesterday, dust and cobwebs were everywhere. I cleaned for ages just to make it barely livable. Yuan Shaoxian wrapped her in his arms with affection, explaining earnestly. Yesterday, when the mistress made things difficult for you, it must have been because you stood out too much, drawing her annoyance. If I hadn't acted extremely displeased with you, that woman would have grown jealous. Wouldn't you have suffered endless torment afterward? I did this for your own good. The woman lifted her tear-filled gaze. Xian Gu, why do you fear her so? She's merely a concubine's daughter from the Grand Tutor's household. You fool. Though born to a concubine, she was raised under the legitimate mother's care and shares an exceptionally close bond with the Empress. For the Marquis to rise, we must rely on that connection. Naturally, we must tread carefully. The truth stung, yet it sharpened my clarity. Back then, Father hadn't refused his marriage proposal, because Yuan Shaoxian hailed from the Marquis of Xuanping's household. The old Marquis had passed away early, leaving his mother to raise him alone. Upon reaching adulthood, he inherited the title. He became the youngest Marquis in the court. He was more than sufficient for a concubine-born daughter of the Grand Tutor's household, or rather, I was climbing above my station. But reflecting now, he likely coveted my status as a secondary-born daughter for his ease of manipulation, and valued my close ties to my elder sister, now the Empress. The Marquis of Xuanping's lineage had few heirs across generations, with weak collateral branches and no influential figures in court, causing their power to wane. With no suitable marriageable princesses in the imperial family, he could only secure his advancement by marrying me, thereby becoming the emperor's brother-in-law. In my past life, believing us to be soulmates, I sought out my elder sister in the palace immediately after our wedding. I secured for him a position of real power. The current emperor cherished the empress, so such a minor request was readily granted. This life. Humph. Inside the chamber, the two continued their sappy displays. Rest assured, my affections won't waver. Trust my devotion to you, we share years of deep connection. Were it not for her family background, I wouldn't have given her a second glance. Sujiruo's tears dissolved into a smile as she echoed his words. Hearts are like double-threaded nets, tangled with 1,000 knots. Yuan Shaoxian nodded. Yes. As long as you understand my heart. I'll trouble you a little longer now. But later I'll repay you 1,000-fold. 10,000-fold. Hearing this, I let out a cold laugh. Nice dream. Repaying 1,000-fold. 10,000-fold. That'll depend on whether you even get the chance. Sujiruo gave a coy little hum, crouching down to help the man put on his shoes and boots. She had already prepared herself to willingly endure the hardship. Yuan Shaoxian was pleased with her attitude. He pinched her cheek, smiled, and turned to push open the door. He collided head-on with me, who was leading a group of servants through the courtyard. Yun Yang, what are you doing here? Yuan Shaoxuan's smile froze on his face, his eyes darting nervously. I pretended not to hear, my face still radiant with a smile as I inquired with concern. Yesterday, Sister Jirua served me hot tea, yet I failed to notice the blister on her fingertip. Only after returning did a maid inform me. My guilt is overwhelming, it was my negligence. It must have been a servant who brought the wrong tea, causing my sister such distress. Such careless servants cannot be kept. That's why I came early today, to replace your attendants with more attentive ones. So such incidents won't happen again. As I spoke, I gestured toward the servants behind me, who kept their eyes downcast and remained silent. Seeing this, he finally relaxed, raising his hand to wipe a non-existent bead of sweat from his brow. I interrupted him. Has my husband also come to comfort my sister? Yuan Shaoxian shook his head vigorously. No. I was merely passing by during my morning stroll. With that, he turned to leave as if nothing had happened. Oh, by the way, my lord, I have some burn ointment bestowed by the palace. It'll ensure your sister heals quickly without scarring. I tried to call him back, but he didn't even turn around. It's unnecessary. Such minor injuries will heal on their own. She's of lowly birth, how could she possibly deserve such fine things? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the light in Sujiruo's eyes dim instantly. My dimples deepened as I declared loudly. Then I shall heed my husband's words. With Yuan Shaoxian no longer obstructing, the servant was still placed in Sujiruo's quarters. Upon returning, Dongrui asked in puzzlement. The loyal attendant specially chosen for you by the lady, why did you give her away? I flipped through the ledger in my hand, not even lifting my head. Precisely because they're loyal. I feel at ease sending them to serve me in Sujiruo's quarters. As for our side, with money, connections, and your training, do we lack loyalty? Besides, however foolish Sujiruo may be, she wouldn't use the servants I sent as her personal maids. So they won't suffer alongside her. They receive their monthly allowance, live in leisure without labor, and with their indentured contracts in my possession, Sujiruo holds no power over them. It is indeed a favorable arrangement. This morning's series of actions, personally visiting the concubine, sending servants, delivering medicine, spread throughout the estate, ultimately securing me a reputation for kindness and benevolence. Perhaps fearing I might grow suspicious, Yuan Shaoxian avoided Sujiruo's quarters for some time afterward. Instead, he visited my chambers daily, engaging in passionate intimacy. I offered no resistance, after all. To seize control of this marquis's household, I urgently needed an heir. Poor Sujiruo, neglected by her master's lack of favor, was treated with contempt by the servants. Unfinished garments with threads still hanging loose. Incense pouches discarded by others. Even meals served cold every single time. Only the personal maidservants attending their mistresses ate from the main kitchen, the other servants in the courtyard ate communal meals and weren't affected. Only Sujiruo's personal maid, Ziying, shared her hardship. When she once confronted the food delivery servants, she was met with righteous scorn. "It's not our fault, is it? Who made Madame Giroua's courtyard the farthest? Of course the food gets cold." Exactly. Not only do you not thank us for walking all this extra distance, you actually complain? You'd be better off using that time to figure out how to win the Marquis's favor. The words left both mistress and maid thoroughly choked with anger. After Su Giroua's outburst, the servants she had placed around her informed me in advance that she intended to seek me out. In my past life, she had also come to ask me to intervene. Back then, I flew into a rage upon hearing it, reprimanded the responsible servants, and docked their monthly wages, prompting the servants to grumble about me. But Su Giroua? Not only did she regain her normal treatment, she even received extra allowances from me, eating almost as well as I did as the legitimate wife. This time around, I won't be so kind. Upon learning Su Giroua was coming, I sent someone to invite Yuan Shaoxian. By the time she arrived, we were already having dinner. She sniffed the air, glanced at the table, swallowed her saliva, and began her tearful complaint. "Brother Xian, you have no idea how those servants torment me. Every meal they bring is cold. Even the simple greens are covered in thick congealed lard. That cold duck soup reeks of gamey flavor, utterly unpalatable. Wah! How am I supposed to endure this life?" Yuan Shaoxian glanced at my expression. Seeing I remained unmoved, he took the initiative to ask, "Yun Yang, what are your thoughts on this matter?" I handed him a steaming bowl of spinach and tofu soup, adopting a humble and virtuous demeanor. "As your younger sister-in-law, I naturally defer to your every word." His lips twitched, but he pressed on with his act, barking at Su Giroua. "With both vegetables and meat, this meal surpasses ordinary households 100-fold. Yet you still pick and choose here, truly ungrateful. Look at what the lady and I are eating, is it not simple and light?" My appetite had been poor these past days, so the kitchen had deliberately prepared lighter fare, which Yuan Shaoxian now seized upon for comparison. Su Giroua sniffled, trying to protest further, but meeting the man's warning gaze, she forced back her tears and bowed her head in resignation. After dismissing Su Giroua, Yuan Shaoxuan's eyes lingered regretfully on her retreating figure. Turning his head, he caught my meaningful gaze and immediately plastered on an ingratiating smile, serving me a piece of fishtail with his chopsticks. "Yun Yang, come. Let's not let irrelevant people disturb our meal." After dinner, Yuan Shaoxian drew close to me. He began to speak hesitantly. No wonder he was anxious. Though he'd held his title for years, he'd never managed to enter the imperial court as an official. Truly, he was a man of leisure. If things continued this way, not only would the Shanping Marquis gradually fall to the bottom of the aristocratic hierarchy, but eventually, the world might even forget its existence. In my previous life, I had pleaded with my elder sister to secure him a position in the censorate. Though the rank was low, it allowed him to oversee and impeach officials, potentially earning the emperor's favor. Sure enough, not long after, he distinguished himself during the Prince Chi rebellion, rising to left deputy censoring chief with boundless prospects. This lifetime, I entered the palace not to secure him a post, but for myself. My death from childbirth in my previous life has been a thorn in my side since rebirth. I cannot live without my own child. But I am afraid. That's why I specifically requested the Empress to grant me an experienced wet nurse. The palace harbors far more treacherous schemes than the outside world. Having a battle-hardened old nurse by my side would ensure a smoother pregnancy and delivery. As for Yuan Shaoxian, only at the very end did I casually mention it, asking the Empress to find him some idle post. I sipped lightly from my clear tea, then spoke slowly under his expectant gaze. "Husband, you may await good news." Yuan Shaoxuan's eyes lit up instantly. "Yun Yang, Is it settled? Might you share a hint? The Ministry of Ceremonies. Would that satisfy you? Husband? Official posts carry varying degrees of prestige and power. His elder sister had secured Yuan Shaoxian a position in the Ministry of Ceremonies, overseeing foreign affairs. While it sounded impressive, it paled in comparison to the censorate, a low-ranking post with little authority. Yet for Yuan Shaoxian, who had never held office before, simply entering the imperial court was deeply satisfying. Sure enough, his face lit up with unmasked joy at the news. Yun Yang, marrying you truly is my greatest fortune. He rubbed his hands together. Well then, I'll head to the study to prepare. You should rest early tonight. I nodded, watching his cheerful figure retreat until it vanished. Suddenly, my stomach churned violently. Everything I'd just eaten came rushing back up. The next morning, I felt sluggish and listless. The maids in the room tried every trick to amuse me, but I couldn't muster any interest. Dongruei hurried in from outside and leaned close to my ear. Miss, I have a curious tale, would you care to hear it? She nodded toward the northwest. Go on. I reclined on the soft couch, pulling a silk handkerchief over my eyes to block the glaring sunlight. Last night, shortly after the Marquis returned to his study, he secretly sent his personal servant to deliver an item to Concubine Row. Do you know what it was? Pastries? Bird's nest? Or perhaps new tea? After Jiao Jiao's beloved had been lamenting for so long, he ignored her in public. But surely he'd make amends afterward. None of those. It was a letter. Pfft, I couldn't help but let out a soft chuckle, blowing the silk handkerchief from my face. Opening my eyes, I felt intrigued. And what was Su Jiruo's reaction? Our informant said Concubine Row pressed the letter to her chest for ages afterward, smiling foolishly the whole time. This morning, she didn't even complain about the cold porridge, she ate it with such earnestness. Miss, do you think the Marquis's ink was laced with medicine? To make someone willingly endure such hardship? I don't know if Yuan Shaoxuan's ink contained medicine, but I do know Su Jiruo is ill, and seriously so. A man offers nothing of substance, yet mere words become her elixir, binding her utterly, feasting on love alone. She's destined to starve. Her mother-in-law had been on the mountain paying respects to the Buddha for half a month, returning the day before her son's appointment. Yuan Shaoxian brought me along to pay our respects. First, mother and son exchanged warm greetings. Then, her mother-in-law, fingering her prayer beads, glanced at me with a cold expression and half-lowered eyes. I hear that whenever Shaoxian went to the back courtyard these past days, it was always to your room? 3 months into the marriage, not only is there no sign of pregnancy, but she clings to her husband relentlessly. As the legitimate wife, how can she be so petty, monopolizing his affection? This was her venting on behalf of her niece. After all, she had raised Su Jiruo as her own daughter-in-law since childhood. Naturally, she felt far more invested than an outsider like me. Yuan Shaoxian stood nearby, lifting his teacup as if to drink, inwardly seething at the prospect of using this excuse to justify frequent visits to Su Jiruo's quarters. I remained composed, bowing low to offer my apology. It was my poor judgment. Mother. My mother-in-law seemed satisfied with my docility, a faint smile touching her lips. Since that's the case, you know what you must do, don't you? This daughter-in-law understands. Yuan Shaoxian, who had been sipping his tea with his head held high, paused involuntarily, pricking up his ears to hear my next words. How could I disappoint his expectations? With a soft chuckle, I beckoned toward the doorway. My husband's chambers stand empty. Aside from me, there's only Concubine Row, who has never found favor with him. Therefore, I have specially sought out a virtuous and beautiful concubine, hoping she might offer some solace to my husband. As she spoke, a slender, beautiful woman entered the room, shy and timid, performing the proper courtesies to greet everyone. My mother-in-law slammed her prayer beads onto the table, gritting her teeth, ready to erupt in anger. I interrupted her, patting her chest anxiously and asking, "Have I done something wrong?" Yuan Shaoxian answered for his mother. "Not at all. Yin Yang's gesture is most considerate." His words praised me, yet his eyes never left the beautiful woman. His smile radiant. A cold laugh rose in my heart. Truly, she was the concubine Rong who had once captivated Yuan Shaoxian in my past life. In that previous existence, Fang Yurong had indeed entered Yuan Shaoxuan's chambers. But back then, as the top courtesan of a brothel, her lips had been tasted by countless men. Later, a minor official had redeemed her freedom and bribed her to Yuan Shaoxian. This lifetime, I found her first and redeemed her at a high price. As a courtesan about to be auctioned off for her virginity, she was deeply grateful that I rescued her from the flames and arranged for her to become the Marquis's concubine. Moreover, Fang Yurong hadn't expected the Marquis to be so young and handsome, her smile deepening. Enchanted, Yuan Shaoxian couldn't resist wrapping his arms around her waist, urgently excusing himself from his mother-in-law. Her chest heaved more intensely beneath his touch. Yet she found no words to stop him. I followed them out. Only when we reached the doorway did Yuan Shaoxian remember I was still there. "Yin Yang, I've just taken up my post and will be swamped with duties. I won't be able to visit your quarters daily. I'll come find you when I have time." My hand rested on my belly as I smiled faintly in agreement. "There's no need to seek me out anymore." With an air on the way. "What use would I have for you?" My pregnancy was known only to those closest to me. The memory of my difficult labor in my past life grew increasingly unsettling. The midwife had confirmed the fetus's position was normal and its size unremarkable. How could it have led to complications? Could it be? This time, I must be exceedingly cautious. Fortunately, Yuan Shaoxian was utterly captivated by Fang Yurong, no longer disturbing me, allowing me to rest and nurture this pregnancy in peace. Fang Yurong had long been steeped in the ways of the world, meticulously trained by the madam. Skilled in countless bedroom arts, no man could resist her charms. Yuan Shaoxuan's duties were light. He returned early from the palace and immediately slipped into her chambers. If any unfinished business remained, he summoned Fang Yurong to the study for its sleeves, adding fragrance. The change of scenery made their affairs all the more delightful. For a time, concubine Rome was the center of attention. I could remain composed, but others could not. Forgotten and neglected, Sujiro's days grew even harder. Yet her anguish stemmed not from worsening circumstances, but from the fear that her beloved's affection might have changed. She dipped silver thread in her own blood and embroidered 2 lines of verse onto plain silk cloth that very night. She sent her personal maid, Ziying, to deliver it to Yuan Shaoxian. Coincidentally, Yuan Shaoxuan's novelty with Fang Yurong had begun to wane. Seeing this stirred a flicker of his former affection. He returned to Su Jiruo's quarters for several days. Fang Yurong immediately clung to him, demanding attention. To appease her, Yuan Shaoxian sent a steady stream of gifts to her room. The latest glass hairpins, rare double lotus brocade, freshly hunted venison, everything except my own share went to Fang Yurong. Meanwhile, Su Jiruo, who toiled diligently in his service, received nothing. Yet she harbored no resentment. As she dressed Yuan Shaoxian one morning, she declared with deep devotion, "Having won brother Xian's heart, I am content. How could such mundane things compare to the bond between us?" Deeply moved, Yuan Shaoxian pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Jiruo, you alone understand me." Yet moments later, the mercury mirror gifted by foreign envoys found its way to both Fang Yurong's and my chambers. See? He clearly knows how to cherish someone, yet he refuses to do so. So is this love, expressed only in words. Truly love at all? Through my deliberate leaks, Fang Yurong learned Yuan Shaoxian would secretly visit Su Zhirua. She sensed something was amiss. Thus, upon my return from the banquet, I was hastily summoned to Fang Yurong's courtyard. The woman stood soaked through, wrapped in a quilt, pointing at Su Zhirua and wailing, "Your lordship." She pushed me into the lake. My maidservant can testify. She must be jealous of my favor. While the mistress was away, she tried to kill me. Her voice broke as she buried her face in her hands and sobbed. I shot her a sharp glare. What a disgrace! Have the maids change your clothes at once? Do you intend to ruin your own body like this? Fang Yurong sniffled. I don't want to ruin myself. I just wanted the marquis and the lady to see how wicked this woman is. Only then did she allow the maids to escort her back into the bedroom. I glanced at Yuan Shaoxian seated at the head of the hall, fan in hand. His expression shifted between storm clouds and clear skies. His thoughts hidden, snapping back to focus. He took a deep breath before addressing the kneeling woman below the dais. Su Shi, do you have anything to say? Startled from her daze, Su Zhirua stammered blankly. I didn't do it. Zhirua has no way to defend herself. I beg Brother Xian to investigate clearly. I saw the vein on Yuan Shaoxuan's temple throb. After a long moment, he ground out through clenched teeth. So you mean you can't produce evidence proving you didn't push her? Watching Su Zhirua, who couldn't offer a coherent explanation, Yuan Shaoxian couldn't help but take another deep breath. Just then, a woman knelt with a thud beside Su Zhirua. It was her personal maid, Ziying. Auntie Rong found an excuse to send me away, leaving only her alone. No one but those three knows what happened then. Your lordship. You know how Auntie Rong is, she never strives or competes. Why would she risk everything to harm Auntie Rong? In this servant's humble opinion, it's likely Auntie Rong jumped into the lake herself, then had her maid fabricate false testimony to frame Auntie Rong. I beg your lordship not to convict based on one side's account alone. Her reasoning was sharp, her words incisive. A maid both courageous and resourceful, I couldn't help but give Ziying a proper look. Su Zhirua nodded frantically in agreement. These words seemed to strike a chord with Yuan Shaoxian. He murmured softly, I know Zhirua's character. She wouldn't do such a thing. As you say, it's entirely possible Lady Rong staged a self-inflicted injury. That's impossible. Fang Yurong swept aside the curtain and stormed before Yuan Shaoxian, grabbing his hand and pressing it against her abdomen. I am already with child. How could I risk the life of the Marquis's offspring? Su Zhirua was confined to her quarters. This scenario played out in my past life too, though back then I intervened, exhausting myself to thoroughly investigate and restore Su Zhirua's innocence and freedom. But this time, I have no intention of meddling. Isn't it better to enjoy some peace and quiet? Only Dong Rue, ever the inquisitive one, would occasionally whisper in my ear. The Marquis snuck off to see concubine Ro again. They were clinging tightly together, one murmuring, Time will clear your name. I'm protecting you. While the other, eyes brimming with tears, replied, I know you believe in me. He was the one who confined concubine Ro. Yet he acts like this? He should be sending people to uncover the truth instead. I shook my head. One dared to speak. The other dared to believe. What kind of man is he if he can't even protect his own woman? Fearing the power of my maternal family and wary of Fang Yurong's underhanded schemes, he cast his beloved into the dust, refusing her even a shred of respect, all under the guise of protection. Such a love, unwilling to be open and honest, could only deceive a foolish woman like Su Zhirua. Or perhaps it was precisely because of Su Zhirua's unwavering devotion that he dared to treat her like a plaything to be trampled upon. After I died in my previous life, he immediately elevated Su Zhirua to the highest status. Thus he wallowed in his self-righteous devotion, turning women into mere plaques to display his supposed true love. But then again, looking at concubine Ro's weak-willed nature, she doesn't seem the type to do such things. Could it really be concubine Ro orchestrating this herself? I turned a page of the scroll without lifting my gaze. Wealth and honor come with risks. Don't they? Dong Rue leaned closer and pressed on. But concubine Ro is pregnant. Miss. Aren't you afraid? Afraid of what? She can't give birth anyway. In her past life, Fong Yurong had also conceived once, but having consumed too many secret potions since childhood in the brothel, her body was ruined. The fetus didn't last long, eventually flowing out as a pool of blood. Besides, even if by some miracle she managed to give birth, it would only be a bastard child. It wouldn't affect the position of the child growing inside me. Yuan Shaoxian visited Su Zhirua twice. Then never again. He also grew scarce at Fong Yurong's quarters, likely mindful that her pregnancy precluded their former reckless indulgences. Later, I heard from a servant in the front courtyard that Yuan Shaoxian had been frequenting brothels with his colleagues lately. He must have found a new mistress there. I never went to admonish him. My mother-in-law, enraged, had retired to the mountains to devote herself to Buddhist practices. With the harsh winter approaching and numerous household matters demanding my attention, I was utterly consumed with work. So busy I had no time to mind Su Zhirua. Confined to her quarters, her servants had been recalled to the main house at the start of her confinement, leaving only her and Ziying in the entire Yuzhu pavilion. Not only did she have to handle everything herself, but she also faced the hardship of lacking clothes, coal, and enough food to fill their bellies. Master and servant endured hunger and cold day after day, toiling tirelessly. I merely pretended not to know. Yet even so, Su Zhirua never once considered investigating the truth herself to clear her name. Like a daughter vine, she clung to the hope that her true love would eventually rescue her. Later, when they could endure no longer, they resorted to their former life strategy, embroidering handkerchiefs day and night, hoping to secretly sell them for silver to ease their plight. But without my high-priced purchases, the crooked embroidery from their frostbitten, swollen hands found no buyers. All their hard work went to waste. Eventually, with insufficient charcoal, drafty doors and windows, and the remote, damp, and gloomy location of Rain Bamboo Pavilion, both mistress and servant soon fell ill with rheumatism. They endured agonizing nights, their cries of pain echoing through the darkness. Whether Yuan Shaoxian knew or not, he remained utterly indifferent. Looking back now, Yuan Shaoxuan's intensified cruelty towards Su Zhirua in my previous life, all to prove his loyalty to me, was likely fueled by his certainty that I would always be there to catch him. After I extended help that first time, he knew my kindness meant I'd never let his beloved suffer too much. But if I weren't there, would he truly strive to ease her pain? Probably not. Not long after, Fong Yurong suddenly came seeking me. Kneeling in the hall, her pleas were heartfelt. This lowly life was saved by the lady. The child within me naturally belongs to you. I come from humble origins. Keeping the child with me might corrupt its character and tarnish the Marquis's bloodline. I hope that after the child is born, it may be raised by you. I beg your kindness, madam. I set down my teacup gently, my smile unchanged. Since it chose to be born within you, it is destined to be with you. How could I take what is rightfully yours? You're likely just experiencing pregnancy anxieties. Rest easy and focus on nurturing the child. Fong Yurong tried to speak further, but Dong Rue interrupted her. Auntie Rong, the lady has just finished meeting with the stewards of all the shops and estates. She is quite exhausted and needs to rest. Hearing this, she stopped speaking, knowing further pleas might incur my displeasure. She forced a smile, curtsied, and took her leave, watching her depart in a daze. Dongruei was utterly perplexed. Auntie Rong is far too timid. The child hasn't even been born yet. And she's already afraid she won't raise it properly. I sighed deeply. It's simply a mother's heart. Fang Yurong was both seeking a protective umbrella and securing a splendid future for her child. Unaware of my own pregnancy, she believed that if I agreed, I would ensure her safe delivery. Once the child was registered under my name and raised by the mistress of the house, it would be held in high regard upon entering society. Dongruei murmured softly, pouting slightly. I wonder what she fears, the Marquis dotes on her so. Look at that enormous night pearl adorning her hair. The vivid jade green twisted silk bracelet on her wrist. Not to mention the Huanhua brocade draped over her. A single bolt of that fabric costs a fortune. Before she could finish, Chin Nanny suddenly spoke. Her tone urgent. Madam, keep your distance from her henceforth. I met her solemn gaze and instantly sensed something was terribly wrong. Nanny Chin nodded gravely. The sachet she wears contains tonghan grass. Tonghan grass originates from the Miao tribes of the southwest. Its scent is pure and fragrant. Yet it possesses the effect of invigorating the blood. If a pregnant woman inhales it for too long, it could lead to miscarriage or difficult labor. I couldn't hear anything else she said afterward. My whole body shook uncontrollably, and my mind buzzed. Scented pouch. Tonghan grass. Blood circulation. Difficult labor. In my past life, Yuan Shaoxian had personally fastened a sachets around my neck. Its scent was identical to the one Fang Yurong wore. He said it was a token for me to carry always. A reminder never to forget his affection. I wore it day and night, never removing it. Little did I know it held a hidden danger. Seeing my state, Nanny Chin and Dongruei hurried to support me. Forgive this old servant for speaking out of turn and frightening you. Madam, miss, you have no sachets. Do not be afraid. I clutched their hands tightly, my lips trembling so fiercely I could not speak, tears streaming down my cheeks. A tidal wave of hatred engulfed me. So, in my past life, my death had been orchestrated. My husband, the father of my child, had personally killed us both. I had thought him merely heartless and ungrateful, never imagining he could be more beastly and ruthless than I had ever imagined. He was a demon. After several days of recuperation, my mind grew crystal clear. Though reborn, I hated Yuan Shaoxian for toying with me. Yet I never sought his life, only to make him suffer. But now it seems this man must not be spared. Coincidentally, during my time feigning illness, a new concubine emerged in the mansion. Ziying, originally Su Jiruo's maid, no longer willing to endure hardship, bribed the guarding servant. She secretly escaped from Yushu Pavilion and climbed into Yuan Shaoxuan's bed. With her lovely looks and skill at flattery and servility, Yuan Shaoxian naturally welcomed her with open arms. Thus, Yushu Xian was left with only Su Jiruo. She sat guarding the house awaiting cleaning, surrounded by piles of soiled clothes, waiting bitterly for Ziying's return. She didn't know that Ziying, who had once willingly worked herself to the bone for her, would never come back. But I went. When I arrived, I found Su Jiruo sitting in the only sunlit spot in the courtyard, propping her chin in one hand, staring blankly at the sky. She was dressed entirely in white. No wonder Ziying had complained about never-ending laundry. Living in this dilapidated courtyard with no servants, she had to do things herself. Ordinary clothes got dirty easily enough, how much worse must white garments be? Poor Ziying had it rough. Hearing the sound, Su Jiruo called out without turning her head. Ziying is no longer in the mansion. There's only concubining now. Startled to find it was me, she abruptly turned, paused in a daze, then rose to curtsy. But her movements were slow and stiff, as if her joints ached with rheumatism. Madam, I didn't catch what you said. By then, Dongrui had brought me a chair, padded with thick cushions. After she gently helped me sit, I spoke. Didn't you hear me, little sister? We have gained another sister. She took a few small steps back, disbelief etched on her face, murmuring softly, "Impossible. How could it be?" She clearly said she was going to risk her life to plead for mercy. How could she? And Brother Xian loves me so deeply. How could he take someone close to me? I chuckled softly. What devilry could there be? It's simply a case of mutual affection. Naturally. Good things come in pairs. No. 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 It can't be. Brother Xian loves me so much. He wouldn't do this to me. He told me, as long as heaven endures, our love shall never fade. Our hearts are bound by a double thread, knotted 1,000 times. We truly love each other. Su Jirua fought back tears, her voice hoarse as she argued with me, her expression wild and frantic. I remained unperturbed, but Dongrui couldn't swallow her indignation. She fastened my thick snow fox cloak, replaced the charcoal in my hand warmer, then rolled her eyes in mockery. Yeah, right. Your Xian loves you most. Loves you most. So he makes you live in the worst place. He loves you so much he confines you to your quarters and feeds you stale food. He loves you so much he carouses with women and indulges in pleasures. Yet never once remembers you. His former fiancée. So this is love. Well, my young mistress mustn't let the Marquis love her even a little, after all. She still wants to enjoy all the riches and honors life has to offer. Su Jirua's tears finally spilled over. Sobbing, she retorted. What do you know? He only dares not offend your young mistress because she has an empress for a sister. Dongrui nodded. Oh, so my young mistress has an empress sister? Does concubine Roan have one too? Concubining as well? Their food and clothes aren't any worse than my young mistress's. Only you live worse than the lowliest stable hand. Yet here you are, getting all sentimental. He's trampled you into the mud, yet you lick his shoe soles, thanking him for his favor. You're 1,000 times more foolish than any street beggar. As Dongrui's words grew increasingly outrageous, I intervened, ordering her to withdraw. Su Jirua froze, her expression blank. Only after a long moment did she snap back to reality, collapsing to the ground and wailing. I rose and stepped forward, towering over her near-broken form. Oh, I uncovered something else. I imagine you'll find it quite interesting. As far as I know, the most crucial piece of evidence that led to Magistrate Su's downfall was submitted by the Marquis of Schwamping's household. She raised her eyes to me blankly, her gaze utterly lifeless. Impossible. I snorted coldly, lifting my head to stare into the void. Why wouldn't it be? Kicking you out was necessary to secure an alliance with the Empress's family, then pretending kindness by taking you in, a virtuous wife and a beautiful concubine. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. How splendid. Indeed? With that, I turned to leave. But suddenly, a thud echoed behind me as Su Jirua slammed her forehead hard against the ground. She then pushed herself up, crawled on her knees to my feet, and knelt before me. Blood mingled with tears trickled down her face. Her eyes were bloodshot, filled with despair and sorrow. She gave a wretched smile. Madam, I beg you to show me mercy. The fetus was already 4 months along. As my belly gradually rounded, I knew concealment was futile and sought out Yuan Shaoxian. Upon hearing of my pregnancy, he paused, then forced a smile. This is truly wonderful news. Ignoring the worry in his eyes, I gently stroked my belly, smiling contentedly. Indeed, mother-in-law has been urging us for a young heir, now he's truly on his way. At the words young heir, his brow twitched again. He did not want the Marquis to fall into the hands of a child born to a woman he did not love. How can you be certain it's a boy? Yoon? I'd cherish a son or daughter equally. This concubine feels the same. Only after bearing a child does one understand a parent's hardship. Lately, I've missed my mother deeply. Now that the New Year festivities have passed and the manor is quiet, would my lord permit me to return to my parental home for a while? Knowing he couldn't refuse. He could only agree. Back at the Grand Tutor's residence, under my mother's care, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, settling into a peaceful life focused on nurturing my pregnancy. While my world was calm, the Marquis's manor faced one crisis after another. Before leaving, I claimed Yuan Shaoxian needed someone to attend to him and released Sujiro. Yuan Shaoxian readily agreed. Absence made the heart grow fonder, and with Sujiro's eager attentions, the two became inseparable. Sujiro no longer insisted on wearing white. She donned brightly colored garments, pale yellow, light green, lotus root pink, apricot red, whatever was most vivid. Using the cosmetics I had specially gifted her, she adorned herself in full regalia, leaving Yuan Shaoxian, who professed true love for her, utterly spellbound. Then came the news that Fang Yurong had lost the child again. Though she had long ceased wearing the sachets at my urging, her fragile constitution ultimately failed to sustain the fetus. Ziying, fearing awkwardness with her former mistress, avoided all confrontations and refrained from competing. For a time, Sujirua enjoyed Yuan Shaoxuan's favor alone. Whenever servants reported on the latest happenings in the Marquis's residence, their accounts invariably concluded with one phrase. That incense for Lady Xiangru burns constantly. The Marquis is quite fond of it. After some time passed and I still hadn't returned to the Marquis's residence, Yuan Shaoxian came to urge me several times. But since I had left, how could I return to the side of that vicious wolf? Seeing he couldn't persuade me, he sent Sujirua instead. She didn't ask me to return, but instead humbly and submissively recounted the recent events within the residence, which largely matched what I already knew. After a few moments, the conversation turned to that incense. Snapping off a stray branch with a sharp crack, I casually reminded her, "Don't forget to take your antidote on time." She spat out through gritted teeth. I barely escaped death. My vengeance remains unavenged. Naturally, I value my life. I gave her a fleeting glance. She'd learned quickly enough. Naivety truly cannot withstand hardship. As she finished speaking, Sujirua presented a familiar-looking sachet. The Marquis specifically ordered this concubine to deliver it to the lady. He said this item is like his heart. He hopes the lady will wear it daily, never forgetting his affection for you. Intense hatred surged in my heart once more, and I clenched my fists. Here we go again. He raised the slaughtering blade once more. Seeing my silence, Sujirua unusually said no more. The token delivered, this servant takes her leave. I gave a light hum, offering no retention. Yet as she reached the threshold, she suddenly turned, knelt with a thud, and bowed her head without a word. After a long moment, she clenched her teeth and resolved herself. "Madam, you cannot take this sachet." I smiled. "I know." She snapped her head up, meeting my piercing gaze. "You know everything?" I tossed the sachet into the brazier, letting the flames devour its intricate embroidery. Since the Marquis loved that fragrance, let's light one more stick. Smoke billowed upward as I lowered my gaze. The time had come. The child would be born in a few months. He must not bear the stigma of being a father killer. As early summer approached, the young Marquis of Xianping passed away suddenly. The imperial physician's examination concluded he died of a sudden stroke. He died in the arms of the woman he loved most. In the midst of their deepest passion, I returned to the Marquis's residence to oversee the arrangements. Dong Rue, who had arrived first, hurried to support me, whispering in my ear, "Everything has been taken care of." I gave an almost imperceptible nod, then let out a wail, clutching my swollen belly as I collapsed before the coffin. "My lord, how could you leave us so? What will become of me and this child within me? How shall we survive?" My wails were heart-wrenching, a sight to make the blood run cold. Whispers among the servants grew louder. They said the Marquis of Xinping had died in the arms of his concubine just 1 year after his wedding, appearing like a virtuous man on the surface yet secretly a womanizer. Truly, one cannot judge a book by its cover. But it was the Marquis's devoted wife who suffered most, now burdened with raising their posthumous child alone. I had barely cried for 2 moments when commotion erupted outside the courtyard. It was my mother-in-law's curses. "Give me back my son! Give me back my son! I truly raised a white-eyed wolf. All my kindness wasted on you. Xiao Xian favored you so much. Yet you worthless slut, took his life." Torn and torn, Sujiro endured the beating and scolding, head bowed, silent, her expression hidden. I stepped out, my face etched with grief and tears, to try and calm things down. Upon seeing me, the mother-in-law redirected her fury. "As the mistress of the Marquis's household, you neglected your husband's care, spending all your days at your natal home. You bear responsibility for Xiao Xian's death." With that, she lunged forward and shoved me, though Dong Rui shielded me, preventing any physical harm. I felt a sudden tightening in my womb, followed by a warm surge flowing from below. "Dong Rui, Nanny Chin, I think I'm going into labor." Amidst the chaos, I successfully gave birth to my child. The moment the baby was born, palace attendants arrived to announce the imperial decree of investiture. I was conferred the title of first-rank noble consort, and my child directly inherited the marquisate, becoming the youngest marquis of the reign. No one raised any objection. Only my mother-in-law, accused by the world of attempting to murder her own grandson, was already overcome with grief. Upon hearing the news, her anger overwhelmed her, causing a stroke. She passed away shortly after. Once everything settled, Ziying came to beg forgiveness. Ziying previously betrayed her master to curry favor, a treacherous act. Today I come specifically to atone. I beg the lady for mercy. I motioned for Dongrui to help her up. A generous heart is no vice, but punishment is still warranted. You shall serve as manager of my newly opened shop. Do you accept?" Ziying wept with joy, kowtowing repeatedly. "This servant willingly accepts, gratefully accepts. Thank you, madam, for your kindness." I had once investigated her family background. Originally, they had been in the spice trade, but her father's gambling addiction had led to the shop being lost. Even before she was sold into servitude, she had assisted her parents in managing the business for many years, demonstrating a certain business acumen. Rather than letting her languish within the mansion, it would be better to set her free to pursue her own path. In stark contrast was Fang Yurong. She was terrified I would send her away, weeping pitifully. "Please, madam, do not drive me away. I've wandered half my life. Finally, I've come to the Marquis's residence to enjoy some comfort. I don't want to work hard for even a moment." She made me laugh, and I agreed. She'd endured so much hardship to finally find stability. I would support her for the rest of her life. It was but a simple matter. Sujirua arrived last. She wore white once more, just as when I first met her. She hadn't noticed that the deep sorrow in his eyes wasn't for me. "Your servant." She knelt slowly, her gaze cold and detached. "None of that. I do this to mourn the love I wasted. The mistress has shown them mercy. This concubine also begs for mercy. Please let me leave." I lifted my head from the cradle, observing her with quiet interest. Why? Is staying at the Marquis residence not good enough? My home is gone. My beloved is dead. My vengeance is served. My love has faded. Nothing in this world holds me back anymore. Perhaps I should go out into the world. Seek meaning for my existence. I granted her wish. Sujiruwa took the provisions I gave her. And with boundless skies and seas before her, she set out to seek her own freedom and pursuits. After she left, Domrue couldn't help but ask, "Miss, you never investigated the matter of Auntie Rose's family being implicated in a crime. How did you know it was the Marquis who provided the incriminating evidence? Whether it happened or not, whether I knew or not, it no longer matters. She believed it, didn't she?" In the end, Sujiruwa was a pitiable soul. Though foolishly wicked, she wasn't utterly beyond redemption. Had she chosen to be my blade, I would have granted her a path to survival, accumulating virtue for myself. Had she refused, she likely would have met the same fate as Yuan Shaoxian. Gentle breezes rustled through the trees as warm sunlight bathed the world. I bent down and kissed my child's peaceful sleeping face. The grudges of past lives were settled, the obstacles of this life cleared away. Reborn through trials, debts and grievances settled. Our time of happiness had finally arrived. The end.